name's Dan Coffey with Citizens for Responsible Government here in Kansas City. And this is John Murphy, one of our partners. We're here today to discuss the general obligation bond, the $800 million general obligation bond that the city is asking the taxpayers to vote on April the 4th. There's been a lot of information disseminated about this bond issue, and we're here today to add to that information. We've got some points that haven't been brought up, and we'd like to make sure that everybody who's going to vote on this has the opportunity to hear what they're voting for, and that's our purpose here today. John has studied this project in depth. He's got a lot of good information, and so I'm going to be asking him questions that will, I hope, enlighten the audience as to what's going on with the bond issue. John, I understand the City Council passed this resolution, and it's a non-binding resolution. Now, what does that mean exactly?
Well, this $800 million bond issue, which if we vote on in April, the ordinance is calling for the city to borrow $800 million over the course of 20 years to be paid off over the course of 40 years. Attached to it is a resolution which they've outlined a whole bunch of projects on there. Resolutions are non-binding, so they may do the list of roads that they're going to fix, or the bridges, or the other pieces of infrastructure, but there's no guarantee they'll do it. And in the past, they've promised a whole lot of stuff and just don't do it. So again, they put out a resolution which is non-binding. There's a whole lot of things they say they're going to do on it, and there's no guarantee that they are going to do it.
Okay. Now, I believe I heard the mayor say the other night that we have $5 billion worth of infrastructure projects that need to be done. How did we get to this point? I know we've been paying a 1% infrastructure sales tax for years, which is bound to have accumulated a lot of money, yet we have all these projects that need to be done. How do you explain that?
Utter mismanagement of the assets the city is supposed to maintain. For the past 40, 50 years, the city has looked the other way, and they have not been properly managing our assets, whether it's water, sewer, roads, bridges, parks. They've done a terrible job of that. Now they've gotten this tax money in there, and they've spent it on other things. They've spent it giving away all these giveaways to downtown developers, big apartment towers for the rich and wealthy downtown, and they have basically taken it out of the general the general fund that's supposed to maintain these the infrastructure that's deteriorating. Like anything else, like a homeowner, you've got to maintain the home you're in. If you don't, it collapses. So we've gotten here by total mismanagement of the city and redirecting of actual tax money to the places it's not supposed to go.
So basically what you're telling me is, historically, we haven't used that money efficiently, and yet now we're being asked to pass an $800 million bond issue that in effect is non-binding, so the same thing could happen over again.
Absolutely. I mean, what you want to do is look at what they've done in the past to what they will do in the future. What they've done in the past is mismanage our money and mismanage the assets they've been given. So the assumption is that we're going to give them $800 million now. It amounts to a blank check. They don't have to do any of this. So you should be very cautious about before you vote on this and look at this thing. This is going to affect Kansas City for a very long time. So as Dan said, the mayor said, we've got $5-6 billion worth of infrastructure projects out there. What that means is you're going to have 5 or 6 more of these $800 million bond issues that's going to come up. So it's going to propel your property taxes right through the roof. Currently, what this is going to do is add on to your property. So for a $140,000 house, each year for the next 20 years, you're going to have to pay another $12 or $13 a year more. So that's going to, after 20 years, it's going to be about $160. You multiply that times 5 or 6 or 7 times over the course of the next 20, 30, 40 years, which is the number they need to get to fix all the broken things in the city. That's going to be astronomical. What that's going to cause is there are a lot of people, particularly on the east side in the 5th and 6th districts, who are already struggling now to pay these bills. They're going to force them out onto the street because they will be unable to pay those property taxes. And then we all know what the county does. Year one, you don't pay your property taxes, they'll send you a nasty letter and hit you with some fines. Year two, you get a nastier letter and more fines. Year three, they kick you out of the house and sell your property on the courthouse steps. And remember, this is not just homes that they're going to be taxing. This is vehicles, your personal property taxes. So if you've got cars, if you've got trailers, and if you've got boats, those things are going to go up through the roof as well.
You mentioned that, and I failed to mention that the reason it will happen, as John just explained, is the fact that these bonds are secured with our property taxes and our personal property taxes. That means your homes, any boats, recreational vehicles, trailers, cars, anything you might own are being pledged basically as a security for these bonds. And there's a lot of speculation as to how that might work, but John pretty well described it, that if you know what happens if you don't pay your property taxes, sooner or later they're going to come and take your property. So, and this, I understand, John, is an unlimited bond obligation. So now how is that going to work? By the term unlimited, to me, is a little frightening.
It's frightening when you get into the weeds of the rules. A general obligation bond is a special type of bond. It's governed by the laws of the state. In the state of Missouri, this type of obligation is an unlimited tax obligation. So, for instance, if this thing passes with 57.1% of the vote in April, Kansas City, Missouri, the entire city is regarded as one tax pool. That means every year that tax pool has to pay back the principal and interest on that debt, the obligation bond. And if there are people within that pool, and there's a number of them that can't pay this or don't pay this or are unable to pay this, they begin the foreclosure proceedings on that group, and then the city basically raises the taxes on the people who are able to pay. Those people, everyone here has got an unlimited tax obligation, meaning the city will raise your rates as high as it needs to pay that off. And if in the course of the borrowings, interest rates go through the roof as they're slated to, that obligation goes higher. So your property taxes are going to go up dramatically. And we all know debts have to be paid. If they're not, your home goes into foreclosure. So at the end of the day, your property taxes and your ability to pay them back are part of the equation. If you look across the city, you're looking at large swaths of property that are unable to cover their debts now. And their actual obligations. If you go to the Jackson County website and look at page 151 of the annual report for 2015, you'll see that we have something like $79 million in unpaid property taxes over the last year or so. That should be a giant red flag to the citizens of this city.
That's interesting. You mentioned there was a report done recently by the Reinvestment Fund. It's on the city's website. You can get it there, and it actually shows which parts of the cities could be the most drastically affected by an increase in property tax, and which ones are probably the most at risk of being hurt by increased property taxes, particularly when you think about the fact that they're going to go up not only the first year, but then, and that's in addition to what you're already paying. These increases we're talking about will be in addition to what you're already paying for property tax, and then every year they're going to go up. They escalate every year for the first 20 years, and then after that point in time, because the first bonds will begin to be paid down, they'll start to slow down a little bit. And we will have, and we do have, an amortization schedule. If you would like a copy of that, you can email us at cfrg123@gmail.com, and we can send you a copy of the amortization schedule that will show you, based on the value of your home, just exactly what the tax impact might be. Also, I would like to tell you that John has written an extensive white paper on the GO bond issue, the General Obligation Bond issue, and we will publish that probably the first of the week, next week, and it'll be on our Facebook page, Citizens for Responsible Government. Facebook, Citizens for Responsible Government, and you can pick up a lot of information about the bond issue and John's white paper on that side. If you'd like a copy of the white paper, we're also going to mail it out to the people that do follow us. If you'd like to get on that list, just send us your email. at cfrg123@gmail.com, and we can add you to that list.
You had mentioned about the reinvestment fund.
Yes.
This is on the city's website. This was presented to the city council maybe 2 weeks ago. The reinvestment fund did a study of the city. Where are the most at-risk properties in the city? And it's basically the 3rd and 5th district. They're either in some sort of default or close to default or having trouble with paying off their mortgages and meeting their tax obligations. That should be a red flag. That is a red flag. This $800 million bond deal will seriously impact those districts. You know, it's a strange thing to me, but every single one of the 3rd and 5th district council members voted for this. Within that bond is a provision for $10 million for a dog shelter. I love animals. I'm a pet lover. We have pets, and I want to take care of animals. But to be basically building a shelter for dogs and kicking human beings out in the street for that is absolutely criminal.
Well, and I know that you've had a lot of calls about that particular issue. Also, we haven't mentioned the bond issue is broken down into 3 parts.
Yes, it is.
You want to describe those briefly?
It's into 3 parts, so you got to vote on 3 different issues. $600 million for infrastructure, $150 million for flood control, and $50 million for the dog shelter and ADA. The $600 million for infrastructure is supposed to be broken down for sidewalks, bridges, parks, things like that. Again, they have this is a non-binding resolution that's attached to it. They may do that, or they may not do what they're saying they're going to do. The $150 million for flood control, that translates in another $150 million for the water department. The water department is increasing everyone's rates now at 16% a year for the next 19 years. That's going to be an astronomical number. 60% a month. So for instance, if you're paying $100 a month now for your water bill, that's $1,200 a year. That's going to go up 16% every year for the next 19 years. That's another hidden tax. And then the last portion, which is $50 million, $10 million for the dog shelter or the animal shelter, and $50 million to be ADA compliant. For over 20 plus or 30 years, the city has been in non-compliance with the ADA. And no one's demanding we do that, but they have frittered away all this time, and that should have been done over the years with the general fund, and they haven't done it. Again, are they really going to do it this time, or is it more like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football? Every time Charlie Brown goes to kick it, Lucy pulls the football away. It happens every year, and that's what it seems to be doing down at City Hall.
This situation, I know I've been asked about this, is similar to the earnings tax in the fact that there are some large area corporations that will not pay this tax increase because they have in their possession TIF programs that have been granted by the city, and they've been property tax abatements and so on and so forth. For example, who have we found that won't be paying this?
It's the usual suspects with this. There are a whole set of friends of the mayor and people with TIF exemptions. So, for instance, first and foremost is the Power and Light District. The Cordish companies will not be paying this. Next to the Cordish companies is the Star. The Star got a nice tax abatement. They got renewed, and they will not be paying this. Others in there, you're talking about Cerner. You're talking about anybody else who's gotten a tax abatement. And again, it's these large corporations with large pieces of property who take up a lot of your footprint in the city and are exempt from this. And again, this is going to be done on the backs of the poor and the average citizen in Kansas City to pay this back.
Thank you. That was very informative. Again, we'd like to thank the audience today for participating. If you would like to follow us, we are on Facebook at Citizens for Responsible Government. We have a Facebook page. Also, you can email us for any of the reports that you would like to have sent directly to you. Our email address is cfrg123@gmail.com. And we always welcome your ideas, considerations, questions, and opinions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.